Have you ever wondered why a reed weeping in exile, a moth drawn to flame, or a wine cup overflowing with joy can touch your heart so deeply, even when you can't fully explain why? What is it about these images that makes us tremble, feel longing, or recognize something in ourselves we've never seen before? In Rumi's Masnavi, the poet doesn't merely paint pictures. He awakens our very souls. Through metaphor and symbolism, he reveals truths that slip beyond words, truths that dwell in that place where heart meets mystery. Welcome to the Unfolding Journey YouTube channel, where we wander through poetry, philosophy, and mysticism to explore the threads that connect all of us. Here, we believe that words are more than ink. They are doorways. And through these doorways, we embark on a journey of inner discovery. Today, we journey into Jalal al-Din Rumi's Masnavi, often called Masnavi Manavi, one of the greatest treasures of Sufi literature. Composed in the 13th century, this epic poem is more than storytelling. It is a spiritual map, using metaphor and symbolism to guide seekers towards self-realization and union with the divine. Before we dive into Rumi's images, let's clarify what we mean by metaphor and symbolism. A metaphor is when one thing is described in terms of another, in essence saying this is that, to illuminate deeper meaning. Symbolism involves using symbols, objects, actions, or images that stand for something beyond their literal presence. In spiritual poetry, metaphor and symbolism are not just ornamental, they are necessary. They allow the poet to speak about ineffable realities, love, longing, unity, things that resist direct description. Let's look at some of Rumi's most recurrent symbols and what they evoke. The reed. One of the opening symbols in Masnavi is the reed, cut from its reed bed. The reed is separated, exiled. Its song is the lament of the soul for its origin, its source. It sings because it is apart, because it yearns to return. The reed becomes more than a plant. It becomes the voice of longing, the voice of love, the voice of the inner self crying out. Wine and drunkenness. The image of wine in Masnavi is spiritual wine, intoxicating not with alcohol, but with the ecstasy of love. To be drunk, here is to transcend the self, to lose one's ego, to dissolve into the embrace of the divine. Rumi does not glorify literal intoxication, but rather the spiritual state of enchantment, of being swept beyond ordinary consciousness. The moth and the flame. The moth drawn to flame is a powerful symbol. The moth, fragile and small, is consumed by its longing for the radiant flame. Although the flame ultimately burns it, the moth is willing to risk all for that union. This reveals Rumi's teaching that love often demands surrender, even dissolution, as the path to mystical transformation. Journey, path, and oneness. Rumi often talks about the path, arka, the journey, safar, the destination, mall. Symbolism of roads, mountains, valleys, obstacles, and guides. These images remind us that spiritual growth is progressive, with tests, moments of doubt, culminating in a sense of oneness and completion. What makes Rumi's metaphors so powerful is that they work on many levels simultaneously. Personal level, the longing, the separation, the surrender. One recognizes something of one's own journey in these symbols. Philosophical level, questions of identity, of being, of nothingness, of self and other. Spiritual level, the ultimate reality, the union with the divine, beyond duality. For example, when the reed sings, we hear the poem of our own separation, perhaps from a childhood, perhaps from a lost love, perhaps from the ineffable source of life, inviting us to remember where we truly belong. Language can delimit. Metaphor opens a chasm into mystery. Rumi realizes that direct speech about God or the absolute tends to fall short. But metaphor, symbol, paradox, story, they carry us beyond literal understanding. They allow a kind of knowing that feels like love, like trembling, like recognition. Stories inside Masnavi serve this purpose. Parables, fables of birds, kings, and common people. They are not merely tales but mirrors. We see our own selves, our flaws, our desires, our longings, and perhaps our awakening. Let's take a few passages more closely. In the opening lines, the reed laments its separation. The reed's song. Listen to the reed, how it complains. It is sorrow, yes, but the sorrow itself awakens longing. It is necessary. The pain of separation is the first step toward realization. Later, Rumi writes of the wine seller who sells wine but doesn't taste it himself. This symbol suggests that some who teach or preach love or holiness may themselves be removed from the living of it. There is a distinction between theory and experience. Another example, the beloved who hides. Sometimes love's mystery is in its absence. The beloved's concealment forces striving, seeking. In spiritual terms, this is the dark night, the valley of nothingness. Though painful, it leads to seeing. Even in our modern world of scientific measurement, digital certainty, and branding, Rumi's metaphors revive something ancient in us. Awe, mystery, longing. They remind us that not everything valuable can be quantified. These symbols teach humility, that we are small, yes, but in our smallness we may discover the infinite. They teach surrender, that sometimes letting go of certainty of ego is the doorway to transformation. A few tips for you, dear listener/viewer. If you want to engage with Masnavi more deeply, read slowly, pause at images, let them breathe, meditate on symbols. What does the read mean to you personally? What emotion, what memory, what hope? Notice patterns, recurring symbols, contrasts, light versus darkness, separation versus union. Allow ambiguity. Don't seek tidy interpretations. Let metaphor live in mystery. Reflect with others. Poetry lives in community, discussion, sharing. In Masnavi, Rumi does more than tell us about love, longing, God, or union. He shows us. Through metaphor and symbol, he weaves a tapestry of inner life, of pain and ecstasy, separation and return. These are not just poetic devices. They are the pulse of the spiritual journey. If the reed's lament draws you, if the moth's flight toward flame calls you, if the wine cup of the heart aches to overflow, then perhaps you too are on the path Rumi walks. A path that never ends, but that enriches every step. If this exploration of Rumi's symbolism stirred something in you, I invite you to subscribe to the unfolding journey. Share this video with someone who loves poetry, who wonders about meaning, who feels longing. Hit the like button, leave a comment. Which image or symbol in the Masnavi touches you the most, and why? Together we can keep unfolding. Thank you for joining us today. Until the next journey, may your heart stay open, your longing alive, and your soul unfurl.